Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to talk about ratios. So before I start, just want to say happy new year to everyone. I'm so sorry that this video came out so late. So basically what happened was that I wanted to take a break for December, like at the end of the year, but who knew that actually at the start of the year my computer broke down and it actually took around 1.5 weeks to repair. And when it came back, because my solid state drive got wiped, the whole data in my computer got wiped as well. So I spent around another week to actually get back to where we are. And so here we are. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. So what are ratios? So actually ratios are a comparison between the quantity or amount of two things. And it can be even more things actually, but most commonly we will see it as the relationship between two things. And it can also be seen as a relationship like seen in recipes. So an example will be given later on, like this. So if I have two squares and one triangle, and the question asks, what is the ratio of squares to triangles? So actually what we have to think about is how many squares are there as compared to how many triangles there are. So in this case, there's two squares to one triangle. So the ratio is like 2:1. So for two squares, there's one triangle. So 2:1. And let's say what if I flip the phrasing around, the ratio of triangles to squares. So this time around triangles comes first. So similarly we can also read it as, for one triangle there is two squares, so the ratio is 1:2, and then we use this column to actually represent our ratio. And let's say I have a fraction. How do I convert it into a ratio? Okay, this is actually quite an essential skill because fractions, ratios and percentages are actually interlinked. And so we will need to know how to convert between these three topics and solve the question especially if let's say you are more proficient in ratios. Perhaps converting fractions or percentage just to ratios will actually benefit you. So okay, here's the statement. The number of boys in my class is 3/4 of the number of girls. So how do we actually break this down? So in most cases actually, right, the numerator for the fraction actually refers to the former, while the denominator refers to the latter in most cases. So in this case, 3 belongs to the boys and 4 belongs to the girls. So actually you can say that the ratio of the boys to girls is 3:4. And obviously because this is not a very hard and fast rule, obviously we always have to look at the phrase first and determine like how grammar is used. So now simplifying ratios. So actually in most ratios or even in some recipes, you see that actually the ratios are very big, the numbers are very big. Like let's say to make a cake you need 500 grams of flour to 100 grams of eggs. Obviously this is made up. So what is the ratio of flour to eggs? So to simplify ratios, we have to actually make use of the knowledge that we have learned in the first chapter of whole numbers, which is dividing by the highest common factor. So in this case, it is 100. So 500 is to 100. That's the ratio that we are given. And to simplify it, we divide it by 100, which is the highest common factor. So with that, we'll get 5:1. So another thing to note about ratios, and this is especially important, because you'll be using this whole idea and concept in later questions, later videos to actually solve questions that are related to ratios. So what we need to know is that the numbers in ratios are not numerical values. So let's say there's a statement, the ratio of pens to pencils is 1:2. So this statement does not actually mean that there is one pen and two pencils only. It actually only tells us that for every one pen there is, we have two pencils. So in this case, this ratio should be seen as actually pens is 1 unit and pencils is 2 unit. And that's all we have to know about ratios as an introduction. So stay tuned for further videos on the different types of questions.